Server Room 17 once again. This is the Dark Souls 3 network stress test. This is going to be my first 3-hour session of this performance test, and it is going to be unedited. The only thing I'm going to be trimming out are the loading times between deaths and between when the game kicked me out and it reset me. Aside from that, it's going to be the honest version of gameplay. I'm not going to make myself out to be a god or a clod. It's just going to be what it is. And I'm going to be showing you the presets that I always do in every Souls game at this moment, which is to change my camera sensitivity to the highest, turn the jump back from the left analog stick, even though I do think that is better, and press circle instead, because it's just how they used to work, and I prefer that. And then, of course, you get to pick your class. So I ended up picking initially the Wandering Knight, which is this fella here. And the first thing you're going to notice, folks, which has to be said, is the frame rate in the test was awful. Somebody left a comment asking, is it going to be 60 frames per second? I really don't think it is. FromSoft just can't do 60. They did it on Scholar, and for some reason they need other people's help to mod their game on PC to achieve it. It seems very confusing. I would love it to run at 60 because I think it would be an absolutely beautiful achievement, and these games deserve it, but I just don't expect it will. So throughout this you're going to see some pretty ugly frame rate, but you get used to it because these games are so good. And at the beginning, the same thing I did when I played Bloodborne, the same thing I did when I went to Manchester and I played Dark Souls 2 on that same build that was at E3. I spend the entire maybe 5-10 minutes at the very beginning finding out what all the moves are, checking all the controls, checking how they feel, checking what you can press, checking all the different things. And this here is the sword arts, the weapon art moves, which, if you're wondering what I know about Dark Souls 3, it's actually not a lot. I've been kind of avoiding it because I wasn't excited for it. And I know that probably sounds like blasphemy, but there's a lot of good reasonings behind it. I got really excited for Dark Souls 2, and then I fell out of love with it. So I didn't want this game to be built on hype and have that hype crumble if it wasn't to my flavour. But I guess I'll discuss a lot of that in the coming minutes. But there is a lot of different techniques in this game. A lot of them are carried over from Bloodborne, but the sword arts are an interesting thing, because you can do these special moves with them. And you see on the shield how it has that little like dagger on the icon of the shield? That means that I can use my weapon art while I have this weapon on. If you don't have that on your shield, you'll have to two-hand your weapon, then you can use the abilities. And they give you 2 extra attacks generally. There are some other effects that they can do, but as it stands, they seem really limited. I think in the scope of the game, when we have, 100 weapons, they'll seem like they fit. But in the case of this demo, there wasn't really a good incentive to use them, outside of because you wanted to. And I attacked people in PvP with them, I attacked people in PvE with them, and I got very similar results, and it was one of these things where you would go, why would anybody use this when you can just use an R2 and it doesn't drain your magic? Or it's faster, or it did more damage, or insert a reason why it just wasn't really up to snuff. And then you've got to realise, which is the thing that I am going to be putting at the end of all these statements I'm going to make now, because this is a game in development. This isn't finished. This will be very close to the finished product, but it's still going to have so many subtle nuances shifted and twisted and tweaked that, we just don't know how things are going to work, and things might indeed work very differently on the retail release. And additionally, we're playing a preset build. We don't know what this character is, we don't know what he does and where his stats are, so he might not be spec'd at all to use these abilities. None of them could be spec'd to use the abilities. So it's one of those things where when the player gets the game in their hand and they get to build their own character, all of that will probably slot into place and make a lot more sense. But in the time we were playing this test, they were just kind of these new cool things that could be really good but seemed really limited outside of a few passive effects which were incredibly powerful. So breaking things is back. It's back with a vengeance. It feels really nice. Jumping is pretty much the same Dark Souls jump of old. Fall damage seems to be closer to Bloodborne, so you don't die as stupidly or take as much fall damage, which I think is a big improvement. I always thought they were really strict with fall damage in these games. So they've definitely carried that mentality across, which I'm very happy about. And this is the high wall of, was it Lothric, I think he's called? A lot of people are going to notice that there are some assets, and there are a lot of visual stylistic choices that make this close to Bloodborne. That is true, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the reason why people are getting all uppity about it at this moment is, you know, the sky does look very Bloodborne-esque in you know, the way that it's very stark, and a lot of the environments do have that gothic tinge to them, but you know the main game is going to have a dozen different places that are all going to have different looking, you know, themes and moods to them. So I think people who are worried that this looks just like Bloodborne, or who are using that as some kind of negative connotation, one, completely insulting a magnificent game, because there was nothing wrong with Bloodborne. Bloodborne was a fantastic game. Well, it's not true there wasn't anything wrong with it, but you know what I mean. It's a great game. Like, I don't understand why, because it's now the last Souls game, everybody moves towards this stance of, oh, it was shit, you know, the new one's going to be great, and then you know when the new one comes out, you're going to get people, oh, the new one's shit, the old one was great, and the eternal argument between Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, and all these different opinions, but I just don't understand it when you relay it towards this, as I get myself into a really bad spot at this moment, and the first thing you're going to notice is just how fast enemies attack you. That was the thing that really surprised me. Oh, hello, there you are. Like, the game, speed-wise, it's about as quick as Demon Souls, but not quite. It's very Bloodborne in speed, but your attacks and your evades aren't as fast as they were in Bloodborne, and the enemies attack faster. So there's this real jarring disconnect that I had, especially at this early point where everybody hits really quickly, and I wasn't used to it at all. Like, really not used to it. Everybody, even the guy with the great axe, swings faster with the great axe than I do with my longsword. Like, there are some really fast animations in this game, and I've come to really like it, even though I think at times it can be incredibly unfair. And they get armor too. That guy with the axe, when he swings, if you think you're going to interrupt him, you're going to have to need like a fully charged two-handed greatsword, because he does not budge. He is a beast, and he hands me my first death. So we learn from our experiences. This guy messed everything up for us, so we're going to do the classical Dark Souls thing of trying to attack him and then attack the wall. Right there you saw the kick. The kick now is about half the speed of the old kick. It has forward momentum and it breaks guard. Guard break results in a riposte, just like Dark Souls 2, and the riposte is incredibly dangerous. There are some passive hollows, and here are the dogs. I don't like the dog at all. I've never liked dogs in Souls games because I think they should take one hit and die. I think they should be arseholes like they are, but I just don't think they should ever take more than one hit. These dogs have been balanced in a very specific way. When you hit them, they fall over. So if you know how they work, you can hit them and then run off and finish them off. But if you're unused to it, like I was at this point, it's really strange. But they are by no means, you know, the terrors of the night, but they can just be a finicky enemy. And they've always been that way, so that's nothing new. So let's look at the hood. You'll notice I'm carrying an ember, and I haven't messed with that just yet. Because I'm just happy to be in the beta at this point, but that will come in time. Ember is humanity, that's what you've got to think of it as. It's a human effigy. On this game, there is a soul form, and there is some kind of ember form, I think it's called, where you'll notice I'm messing around with putting my flask back on. And in ember form, you will have more life. It's just like Demon Souls for that, which is making me really hope that there is a cling ring to make it a little bit better on the old invasions, because having a 40% deficit can sometimes be a bit of a bad thing. And that right there reminds me of the women from Bloodborne. This enemy, for some reason, has a fetish for pushing you. And the push is really annoying. You can chain stab as well, but the timing on it is much harder than it was in Dark Souls 1. And you're going to see me discover the chain stabbing timing on a couple of enemies in this, because I'm going to be trying to do it. I also was practicing kicking them when they get up to see if I could guard break them if they blocked on wake up, which happens with the shield guys a lot. But back to what I was saying, sorry. So Ember form makes you effectively human. You do not have to be human to invade. You can invade in normal form, which is a really, really cool feature. And the Ember is a full heal too, for the time it transforms you. However, you cannot use it once you're in Ember form, so you can't just pop it like humanity, so you're going to have different resources, it seems, for healing. This guy is literally using the Great Axe. I did not get him to drop it, and I killed him a lot. I did not see anybody else find one, which I think is really disappointing, because I was hoping to pick that weapon up. And that right there is an animation that's longer than you think it would be. But it's fair, because did you see how long he was weak for afterwards? Guy's vulnerable for ages. The Estus, it's not quite an immediate heal anymore. It's a fast animation, but it also does the heal over time. However, it seems to be faster than Dark Souls 2. So it's a little bit more balanced and just more interesting to use, I think. The Divine Blessings have got the same treatment. It's a fast animation, it's not quite as fast as Dark Souls 1, and it heals you over time like the mushrooms did. Until you get full life, it doesn't continue then. And it's nowhere near as powerful, because I popped one during a gank to try and survive, and it didn't work, I got killed. So the people fearing Divine Blessings, or if there gets to be some kind of character editor or save editor where people get lots of them, because if you don't know, you're not big on the Soul series, there was an item in it called Divine Blessing, which enabled you to heal the quickest out of any healing item, and it was a full heal. And they were very difficult to get, but you could get 99 of them, as I spent about 40 hours doing to prove a bunch of bitches who were really wrong, effectively proving them wrong. But it was a very powerful item, and a lot of people modded their their save data so that they could have 99 of them effortlessly, and it was a very, very useful tool against a whole host of things. And of course, this is Dark Souls, where everybody fights under their own rules, so some people would just use them. In any fight, it didn't really matter. And a lot of people had a massive problem with this. In this game, I don't think that's going to be the case. Interesting. The video just jumped then. I think that was an Elgato problem, guys. I do apologise, I cannot control those at all. Like I said, this is going to be unedited, so now you know what I have to put up with, thanks to technology. But you can walk up behind people again. I wanted to charge the R2 to see if it would put him into a stun state like on Bloodborne, and the video jumped again. I hope it doesn't do this too often, that's really, really bad. So, yeah, this is going to be bootleg as fuck. I hope the coming videos aren't this rough. Which is weird, because I've just come off recording an Uncharted 2 playthrough, which was pretty intense. Like, I was recording for quite a long time, and I didn't have any issues with that. And I think the reason is, I was stopping the video, like, every 15 minutes and restarting the software. Because Elgato is a fucking piece of shit, I hate it. But this is Dark Souls 3, so let's talk about this. So you can cancel out of gestures, which is really nice. There are no, well, what is it gestures, and I only did a gesture via the motion controls once, which was me just randomly bowing. So it's not going to be like Bloodborne, where every so often you just fucking sit down. Two guys to our right here, they're going to get up. That is the standard shield guy and the standard hollow. This dude can be guard broke, as I tried to do just then, but of course he does the thing where the moment I try and do it, this is it. Look at that! One problem I've got with that, against a human, it doesn't look like that. So when I do it in PvP and in my sessions to come that you're going to be watching, I don't repost them, because I didn't realise that's what I'd done. It does the old animation where people's shield gets flung back behind them in kind of like a weird, you know, backward swimming move, and then they're vulnerable for a second. If you run up to them then and press R1 and you're close enough, you'll repost them, and I didn't realise. But it seems like this video is really suffering from just frame skippage on a £140 capture device, which is like $200 if you're wondering. This right now is me trying to do some cheeky jumps to try and get up there. I am almost certain that if you persevered long enough and you had long enough, you could do this, because this looks like that type of stuff in the forest where you can jump up to stupid shit if you do it for like a million times. But we only had 3 hours, so I was very conscious that I wanted to see everything before I started messing about too much. Then I put the torch on, and I decided to try and light some candles, because I thought that could have been a really cool hidden thing, but it's not a thing. Then I came over to the shrine, and I tried to light the shrine, and that didn't work either. The good news is, the torch works just like it did in Bloodborne, so it's pretty damn useful, and it doesn't burn out like it did in Dark Souls 2. Also, really good weapon. Does considerably good damage, and it makes people flinch, so you can do R1, L1, R1 combos with it. And I never tried it in PvP because I was too stupid at the time and too excited, but I'm almost certain it's going to throw a lot of people off, because I did it by accident to a gank squad and it stunned both of them, which is pretty cool. But down here is a couple of firebombs that I've already picked up. Oh no, this is the wrong area, sorry, my bad, I thought we were on the one across from this. So this is going to lead to the shortcut, but I don't have it open. To my right, there is a guy pretending to be dead. There's also going to be an item. The guys in the armour, who have pretty good reach and really good speed, they generally take about 2 hits from this class to kill. And then of course there are the backstabs. A lot of people are going to be curious about the backstabs. They work very similarly to Dark Souls, but the detection on them is a little stricter, so it's not quite as vacuumous as it was, but it's also not quite as difficult as it was as Demon Souls. The main issue comes from, it's this hybrid of every Souls game. So you've got the trickiness of Demon Souls, though not quite there. You've got the ease of use of Dark Souls, and then you've got the ability to whiff of Dark Souls 2. And I really wish it wasn't the case. I think the backstabs are only a problem until you learn to fight them. And the big problem is there is a very vocal majority of players who aren't willing to learn to fight them, so they'll just complain about them. And I am somebody who really appreciates the criticisms of a game, and I'm someone who has criticised backstabs in the past, but you come to accept them and you learn to fight them. And you learn to realise that as overpowered as they are, there is a balance to it because it can be fought. And I never really minded them towards the end of Dark Souls 1. I hated how every fight became about them, because people didn't even do R2s because they'd just get punished. But at the same time, I really feel that it made it the game it was. So now that they've made them trickier to do, there's going to be much less emphasis on backstabs, but it's also going to make it it's going to make it much harder to win situations you probably shouldn't win. And I'm always going to be putting this back to when you're getting 4v1'd, because now a host can have 3 white summons, but only 2 invaders in the world. This lady here who has the lantern, she will scream and rally the troops, and they'll all come and attack you, but you don't have to worry because they are hollows. This is me trying to toggle, and you'll notice toggling doesn't seem to be there, but there are moments when you do look like you recover quick, so I think it's kinda there, but kinda not. I couldn't tell. Like, I don't think it's spot on toggling, but I think there's enough of it that it can be used. But we'll have to wait for the full game, because, you know, I was like, did that work? Did that not work? I haven't played Dark Souls in like a year, so I'm really rusty on my toggle and how it's meant to look, but there's definitely something there that can be worked out, so I'm excited to see that. These are the sword arts, if you're wondering what I'm doing with these moves. If you look in the top left, you'll notice that it drains the blue bar, which is your magic or your mana. And at the bottom, where my Estus Flask is, you'll notice that there is a blue bottle to the right. That is the Ash Estus Flask. It's just an Estus Flask that brings back magic, and when you sit at a bonfire, it brings back the charges on it as well. So you have 2 flasks now. You're going to be managing 2 different flasks. But as I was saying, during the gank squads, the one thing that kept me alive the most in the forest, aside from idiots who didn't know how to play the game and thus went through, 3 deep or 2 deep or however many there were, was backstabs. And the main reason you could live so long and you could conquer those unsurmountable odds was because they didn't know how to defend them, and they were all so eager to come and attack you that you could just run and lock on backstab them. And then after that you could parry their friend, and then after that you could chain stab him, and you could run away. And on this game, I just couldn't backstab anyone. In those moments, there was just no backstabs happening, and when they were missing. So it makes me afraid of how the gank situation is going to work for a few reasons, and I'm going to explain them. The first is, I think it's either going to make the game memorable, maybe the most memorable, or it's going to kill it in some ways. But at the same time, there are also a few variables we have to bear in mind, which are the saving graces, really. The first one is, we have no idea what we will be able to use to fight creatures in this game. We don't know what the spells are, we don't know what the weapons are, what the weapon arts do, we don't know anything. For all we know, there could be moves in this game that do 360 spins and instantly kill people. So all you have to do is get them all chasing you, and then just 360 spin, and it takes out 2 phantoms, and then you're fighting the host. We don't know. You know, you can have a spell that sends them home. You could have a homeward rapier from PC. Like, we just don't know. And because we don't know of our own abilities, that's the thing that's really, really saving my opinion of the 4v1 fights. Because as much as I think they're hilarious and they're probably very fun to do, I think from a perspective of wanting to win them, there's no skill involved. And for me, if there is no skill investment, there's no investment. And I will never claim to be the best player of a Souls game. I will never claim to be the best PvPer. But I like it, and I have fun doing it, and there are times where I feel like a badass. And taking out 2 phantoms and a host with parries and backstabs and not healing, and they're healing like, you know, every other second, is a really good feeling. And if we can get that again in a 4v1 where it makes sense and it's just as natural, I think it's going to be great. I just have no idea how it's going to work, judging by my experiences in this network test. Ooh, these are new. Remember in Bloodborne how you had those little notes that gave you a little bit of lore, and it meant you didn't have to make it up yourself or go to those videos where people make it up? That's going to be the closest you get to official lore outside of the descriptions, which is really interesting, I think, because for the people who want to theorize and postulate on all those, you know, speculative things about places that are never featured in the game and names and people that you never see, there's going to be that, and there's going to be that avenue for people to get excited and get all balls deep in the lore, but then there's also going to be a little bit more streamlined storytelling to give those people who don't really care an opportunity to, you know, still have a grasp of what's happening. And the network test was really unstable, so it kicked me out then, and when it kicked you out, it never made a save, so I have to start from the beginning. But we know what we're doing a little bit now, so hopefully we'll get back to the Great Sword pretty quickly. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.